Imagine, if you will, a ledger. Not one filled with ink and paper, but a ledger of the soul. This is the record of 10 days that forever altered a person's relationship with supply, with the Creator, and with the very fabric of her own existence. This story does not belong to a mystic or a high-ranking cleric. It belongs to Soledad, a 44-year-old woman in Zacatecas, Mexico. Her life was measured in the cold metallic weight of tools and hardware. She managed a family business, a ferreteria, and for years she woke each morning with a physical sensation she could not name, a heavy, constricting pressure in her chest. We call this the hypnosis of limitation. It is the belief that our good is limited by the economy, by our location, or by our past. Soledad lived in this fog until a divine accident, which we know is actually a divine lid, occurred. A customer left a small, blue-covered book on the counter. No one claimed it. That night, Soledad opened it. She read until the early hours of the morning, discovering a truth that felt like cool water on a parched throat. Your life is the out-picturing of your habitual thought. She made a decision. She would test the law. She would follow the 10-day experiment of scientific prayer. What follows is the first movement of that transformation. Soledad woke before the alarm. The world outside was still draped in the velvet black of the pre-dawn. She sat up in bed, the blue book open to the page she had marked. "I am afraid this won't work," she wrote. "And I am more afraid that it will work, and I won't know what to do with that power." The first instruction was simple yet monumental: the silence. 5 minutes of sitting without thought of debt, without calculating payments, without the mental rehearsal of lack. At 40 seconds, the image of an unpaid invoice from a tool supplier flashed across her mind. She followed the Fox method. She dropped the thought. She did not fight it. She simply let it go, as one drops a stone into a well. At 2 minutes, the bank loan surfaced. She dropped that too. Then she whispered the 5 affirmations of supply. She felt strange, speaking to the shadows about divine abundance, while knowing exactly how little was in her bank account. But she did it. She closed with 2 minutes of gratitude. She felt no lightning bolt, no sudden surge of wealth. Only a tiny, fragile space of quiet. Something curious happened. Soledad woke 5 minutes before her alarm for the second time. As I have taught for decades, the subconscious mind, once it receives a clear instruction for a morning practice, begins to prepare the body before the conscious mind even commands it. The silence was easier today. The worries were still there, but they arrived more slowly, like waves that had lost their crests. She realized that learning to pray is like learning to swim. On the first day, the water is terrifying. On the second, you begin to trust its temperature. She reached the affirmation: "I do not pray from lack. I pray from the plenitude of that which is already received." She repeated it 3 times. External conditions had not changed. The suppliers were still waiting. But her internal relationship to the problem was shifting. The weight in her chest felt, for the first time, a fraction lighter. On this 3rd morning, Soledad touched what I call the door. After dropping her usual worries, she experienced 20 seconds of absolute, crystalline stillness. No thoughts. No Soledad the manager. No Soledad the debtor. Just being. In that space, a transfer of spiritual energy occurs that no words can replicate. She spoke her affirmations from this deep place. Money is spiritual energy in material form. It flows to me because I am a clean and grateful channel. She realized she had associated money with conflict and stress her entire life. This morning she saw it as a neutral, divine flow. Something fundamental was breaking apart in her consciousness. The hard fact of poverty was being revealed as a soft delusion of the mind. Soledad woke from a dream. She had seen a faucet, but instead of water, it poured forth pure, blinding light. She understood the symbol immediately. Divine abundance does not need to be created. It only needs to be permitted. The light is always there. We are the ones who have had our hands on the valve, shutting it tight with our fears. The silence today lasted 8 minutes. She no longer felt empty. In the quiet, she felt full. That afternoon, a tangible sign appeared. While cleaning out an old office drawer, she found a misfiled receipt. It was a payment from a client made 3 months ago that she had recorded as an outstanding debt. Her own error had been creating a ghost of lack in her books. As Soledad wrote in her diary, the mind ordered by truth begins to order the ledgers of the world. We enter now into the crucible of the soul. In any spiritual undertaking, there is a period of initial enthusiasm, the honeymoon of the mind, where the new ideas feel fresh and powerful. But as I have taught for many years, the old habits of thought, what I call the old man of the subconscious, do not vacate the premises without a struggle. This second act of Soledad's journey is perhaps the most vital, for it is here that the scientific part of scientific prayer is truly tested. In my books, I have often warned students about the fifth day. It is the moment when the physical world seems to conspire to prove your spiritual work is in vain. Soledad woke this morning not to a dream of light, but to the cold, hard logic of the ego. You have spent 5 mornings talking to yourself in the dark, the voice of fear whispered. And look at the facts. The hardware store had its slowest week of the year. The bank sent a second notice in red ink. The supplier called yesterday, and his voice was not kind. These are what we call appearances. To the untrained mind, they are the ultimate reality. But to the student of truth, they are merely the dying echoes of past thinking. Soledad felt the urge to quit. She felt the heavy weight return to her chest, more suffocating than before. But she remembered the golden rule of the great experiment: do not argue with the fear. She did exactly what the law requires. She acknowledged the voice. She told herself, I hear these concerns. They seem real to the world, and precisely because they are so loud, I will turn even more firmly to the silence. She sat longer today. She spoke the affirmations not with the excitement of day 1, but with the grit and determination of a soldier holding a position. She realized that when the fear speaks loudest, it is a sign that the old consciousness is finally breaking up. She stayed in the quiet until the red ink in her mind was replaced by the white light of divine presence. She chose to believe the law over the ledger. Something shifted during the night. Soledad woke with a strange sense of buoyancy. I have explained this phenomenon many times. The spiritual work you perform during your morning silence does not stop when you open your eyes. It sinks into the subsoil of the subconscious. While you sleep, the divine mind processes and consolidates the truths you have sown. This morning, for the first time, Soledad's gratitude was not a duty. It was a genuine feeling. She reached the affirmation. Thank you, Father, for I have already received. She didn't just say the words, she felt the reality of them. She realized that if God is the source of all supply, and God is everywhere, then the supply is already present. It simply hasn't precipitated into visible form yet. That afternoon, the first unexpected provision arrived. Her brother-in-law called. He mentioned that a relative of his needed someone trustworthy to manage a second, larger hardware outlet on the other side of the city. A consulting role with a guaranteed monthly stipend. Soledad had not sought this out. She had not applied for it. It found her. As the law states, the mind that recognizes abundance in the spiritual realm activates it in the physical. 7 is the number of completion in the spiritual tradition. By the 7th morning, Soledad noticed that the silence was no longer an effort. It had become as natural as breathing. She did not have to fight to drop the thoughts of debt because her mind had developed a new habit. It preferred the peace of the presence over the chaos of the counting house. She stood by her window, looking at the first gray light of the Zacatecas dawn. She realized she was no longer a manager of a hardware store, trying to find God. She was a child of the living God who happened to be managing a store. The hierarchy of her life had been corrected. With this new certainty, she performed a courageous act. She called the supplier who had been most aggressive. A week ago, she would have made this call with a trembling voice and a heart full of scarcity. Today, she spoke from a place of divine order. She proposed a payment plan with such calm and authority that the supplier agreed immediately, even offering her a discount on the next shipment. The external situation, the debt, was the same as it was on day 1. But the consciousness facing the debt was entirely new, and as Soledad discovered, when you change your mind, the world has no choice but to follow suit.